Speaking of Passover, we actually just got back from Mardi Gras. I just took Alex to his first Mardi Gras, and we hosted a C4SS festival during it. And it was, I mean, I grew up with Louisiana, like Cajun Carnival. And, that was their first carnival, but I grew up with that. I have to ask, Andrew, what is Carnival like over there? Because I'm not familiar, and I know it's a whole different. I know that's a big question.
Well, I mean, it's pretty deeply embedded into the culture. It's not something that's just one event in the year that is that takes place and then it's okay until the next year.
Yeah,
It
no, it's
actually
a whole
occupies
season
a significant season of time, going as far back as at least September, I think, or October, where you have all these plans and preparations being made. The artists tend to produce their music and stuff around that time, and hype and preparation for festivities, to really get people to get the lyrics and stuff for when they're on the road and thing. And so you also have the carnival bands organizing their costumes and their themes and getting their stories and their pieces prepared for the competitions that occur. You have the steel pan bands preparing their performances for the panorama competitions, and of course you have, as the weeks leading up to it, you have various places in the capital setting up their fences or blockades or whatever to protect the facades of their buildings from the mud and paint of Juve, mud paint and powder of Juve. And so, I mean, it really is a very, very, very crucial and in some senses even spiritual affair. And yeah, I think a lot of people really appreciate its role in our culture and in expressing the many emotions that's kind of bubbling throughout the year.
It definitely feels very similar over here. I mean, it's something that year round we're preparing for pretty much, but it's really right around pretty much the same time period you're talking. Most of the parades and stuff and the big celebrations don't kick off until January, but you start having some of the balls and things like that as early as October, November. I mean, everybody, all the school bands are part of it, and all the local musicians are writing songs for it. We have, it's very much a religious affair in a lot of senses, as much as it's also become a tourist attraction. But you got such a rich history. I mean, I got to bring Alex and one of our other coworkers, Nathan, to the Zulu parade, and that's the pride and joy on Mardi Gras Day. They are the ones who start out on Fat Tuesday. They're the ones who start out that celebration that morning. And on Lundi Gras, they also are the ones that run that whole the big Lundi Gras festival every year. And they're the first Black Carnival crew in Louisiana to be able to march in a Main Street parade. And because of the racist legacy over here. And before that, all the Black crews were designated to back streets and side street parades and stuff. They were not allowed on any of the main streets. They were the first Black parade that got to march on a Main Street parade route. As we like to say, they did the respectable thing and dressed up in face paint and wigs and grass skirts and threw coconuts at all the white people. And just to mock them, because Carnival's a mockery, in a big way. I mean, it comes, especially over here, it's really tied in with a lot of ball culture and stuff too. And it's just become a tradition ever since where they still, every year they come out and they have a huge music festival the day before, and then that morning they're the first parade. And the Zulu crew is a benefit society. It very much, and most Mardi Gras crews over here are, they very much operate as mutual aid societies internally and within their community. So they often raise money for their members and any, internal expenses and emergency expenses that people have, be able to give different benefits and care for their members. They also end up doing a lot of projects in the community, anywhere from very apolitical kind of community volunteering stuff to some very explicitly political stuff. I mean, we just had a split in the crew of Nyx the other year over the fact that, there's just a lot of racism in that crew that was unchecked. And so a bunch of their crew split off in the middle of the Black Lives Matter movement, because that really just drove the crew apart. And now Mixed Women, which spun all that, is huge into doing social justice stuff over there. Some of the first queer activism in that area formed out of Mardi Gras crews, because that was some of the few times that people can meet and gather and be in drag and or cross-dress or, just express their gender in general. And so things like that were a lot more accepted during Mardi Gras, and you can kind of just go under the radar a lot more. And so you just have these interesting history of various liberatory movements utilizing what started as a very religious tradition in order to, push forward movements and win civil rights in various ways.
Alex gave me his first impressions of the Mardi Gras celebration. He described it as very anarchistic, as like it's an inversion of like hierarchies, that you're supposed to make fun of people, you're supposed to be very spontaneous. It's there's too many people doing things for the cops to actually control anything.
They shut down the police station for the day, and all the cops are out there directing traffic, and that's all they can do.
Well, that's
the most they tell you is, hey, you can't drink that glass here, you have to pour it in a cup.
Yeah.
And then, I literally saw someone pass a blunt to a cop on a horse, and and the cop just waved them away. Like, the cops are way too overwhelmed that unless you are actually causing violence, you are not getting fucked with on Mardi Gras for the most part.
And do you feel like that's the case with, is that like a cross-cultural phenomenon with Mardi Gras, with your experience of the celebration?
Police involvement has a storied history when it comes to Carnival celebrations in Trinidad. There have been multiple efforts by the police in the 19th century to try to shut down the festivities. Within the 20th century, things got a bit more formalized, and of course there were ruptures and stuff, and police pushed back against that. But as of now, the police, they're mostly involved in, regulating like glass bottles and moving traffic and that kind of thing.
It's also very interesting. One of the things that I noticed, everyone else that, all the first timers I dragged over this year were not expecting and not used to, was the way that it's such an important cultural event that it crosses political boundaries in a way that people aren't used to in an America that's so politically fractured to such a high degree. You're literally seeing people like wearing Black Lives Matter shirts and hanging out at the Zulu parade and stuff. You still got all the push carts at the beginning of the parade selling Trump flags and stuff. But the push carts are selling Trump flags and pride flags and weed flags. You have tons of rebel flags on people's pickup trucks and stuff like that out there. But then you have more blatantly, left of center and leftist stuff. And they're, wearing they're all hanging out, and nobody really gives a shit in a weird way. And that's one of the few times you will see that in that area. Because that area is so, that area is so divided.
For me, I'm, someone from in California, everything is secularized and very corporate. Like, especially, I think the closest analog I can think of is Pride. Where pretty much like the most fun that we had, with my, very queer friends and stuff that went was, listening to the sort of protesters just say the wackiest shit on the planet, because the rest of it was just, advertising. So it's like the sense of community is just, to hear about it and also to see it, in the course of helping out with that event, whatever way I can, is, it's just such a different world to like what it is that I've sort of lived in, and that's beautiful. I like it. I like. You
reminded me though. There are protesters every year at Mardi Gras.
Oh hell yeah!
And it's fucking hilarious because it's always the same Protestants. Who were always down on Bourbon Street throughout the year anyways with their same signs. And it's all about how you're going to hell because you drink, do drugs, are Catholic, or are queer, or whatever.
Just we all.
Yeah. I would like to apologize on the behalf of Protestants that not all of us are like party poopers.
It's really funny though, because I have a picture from one year where they had the best sign, and they've had it since, and I love it. It's my favorite sign that says drunk queer Catholics repent. And as a drunk queer Catholic, I had to go take a picture next to that sign
as a reminder,
and it's still one of my favorite pictures.
Oh yeah,
I lost it sadly, but it's still one of my favorites.
What's the religious situation in Trinidad? I'm curious.
Yeah, I was gonna make the comments that we already have protests when it comes to Protestants in Trinidad. So people who don't participate in Carnival either stay home or they go to Tobago for the weekend. And yeah, the religious situation is very diverse. We have Hinduism, Islam, every kind of Christianity under the sun, pretty much, and of course a couple, unaffiliated. We have Orisha, we have Rastafarianism, and yeah, it's just like a lot of different people on one or two islands.
Is there like a puritanical kind of culture that comes to sort of like pushing against the celebration and sort of pushing it down?
That has existed for as long as Carnival has been claimed by Africans. So that is that's always been a thing. It's particularly the religious element that tends to push against it or to be against it. But around the rest of the year, puritanicalism is kind of like the norm. It's just you have these opportunities to kind of let loose.
I think it's really interesting talking about these sort of like binaries between like intense like cultural tribalism and then very corporate, very sterile thing that Spook was talking about. That there's just a false binary that either you're for like this very like socially, culturally conservative communitarianism or this sort of universalized like corporate capitalism. But then there's these moments where we have at like carnivals where that binary is broken, where it's like it's got a religious element, but it's not people predominant. It's got pushing the boundaries of gender, it's pushing the boundaries of sex, it's multicultural, it's class conscious. Like those are those moments that I think are really exciting about that they break from that binary.
Hello, this is David Lieberhart.
And Jason the Cat.
Please join Crew de Maine and the Center for Stateless Society
For Crew de Crow.
a week-long
Anarchist Book Fair.
and Mardi Gras
Festival.
in St. Tammany
County.
Louisiana, there'll be live podcast.
Music.
And a pump drag.
So much.
Visit our website,
.wgf.
for more information.
Thank you.
Have a great Mardi Gras.